quite there yet, but they could be very, very soon. Vote counters are back at work in Pennsylvania, and we expect new vote tallies to drop at any time. We also expect new results from Arizona and Nevada in the hours ahead, but only Pennsylvania could put Biden over the top on its own. Its 20 electoral votes would give him more than the 270 he needs to close the deal. Let's go right to a key race alert. And let's start off in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania, which we're watching oh so closely right now. 20 electoral votes. Joe Biden is ahead by 28,833 votes. He has 49.6% to 49.1% for Donald Trump. 96% of the estimated vote is in. We're also watching Georgia, where 99% of the estimated vote is in. Biden's lead has jumped up a bit to 7,248. He has 49.4%. Trump has 49.3%. In Arizona, which has 11 electoral votes, Biden's lead is close to 30,000, 29,861, 49.6% to 48.6%. In Nevada, 6 electoral votes. Biden maintains a steady lead, 22,657, 49.8% to 48%. 93% of the estimated vote in Nevada is in. Let's walk over to John King, who's watching all this as closely as anyone on earth right now. It's getting closer and closer.
Day 5, good morning. How you doing?
Yeah.
Look, day 5, so you say, why is it taking so long? Well, day 5 could very well, because of Wolf just outlined, be the decisive day. And why is that? Look, here's the national map. Joe Biden building an impressive lead in the popular vote as more are counted. That's a moral victory, an important victory for the Democratic Party. But what Joe Biden needs, as you noted, is just to get over the top. 253 electoral votes. We have not changed that in 2 days as these states count through. But today we do know Pennsylvania, Wolf noted 28,833. When you see both candidates above 3.3 million votes, just shy of 29,000 votes does not seem like a big lead. But now we are down to fewer ballots left to count. So what are we waiting for? We're waiting, number one, to see if we get another installment out of Philadelphia right here. Philadelphia and the suburbs still have a modest amount of ballots, but they're counting those modest ballots. Here's the question. We know in the mail-in ballots, Joe Biden has been running up impressive numbers. There are so-called provisional ballots. You want some of those to be reported so you can just match it up. Is the math the same, or is President Trump somehow making up ground? Most unlikely. He's going to make up ground here, but you want to see the votes. We expect some anytime later this morning. Another big important allocation of votes. They've been counting votes out here in Allegheny County. This is Pittsburgh. And again, late last night before we left, we got some votes from here. And again, Joe Biden overwhelmingly winning these late ballots. You want to watch a few more installments here. It's a comfort zone factor. It's a giant state. More than 6.6 million votes count when you added them all up. So you see 28,000. You want a little more evidence that the trajectory is solid. We could get that. Within minutes, but certainly within hours. You also noted, Wolf, I just want to bring this up. Georgia, the Secretary of State yesterday said most likely to head into a recount. So you look at this, 7,248 votes in a state that is 49.4 to 49.3. That's actually quite significant. The Biden lead grew by nearly 3,000 votes overnight, and a recount lawyer will tell you. In a recount, maybe a dozen votes change. Every now and then, 100 or so votes change. When you can add 3,000, if you're going to head into a recount, you're at 7,200 now going up. It would tell you that's quite significant. It makes it much less likely that there would be any change. And again, sometimes there's human error writing something down. It's not about anything nefarious, but you go through, you recheck the votes. Sometimes it doesn't change. Maybe 7,200 vote lead is pretty solid. And then you mentioned, obviously, there's a lot of impatience in the country. We get that. We share it. But they're trying to count votes. So you move out to Arizona, they're still counting votes, a 29,861 vote lead. This is the one state. In Pennsylvania, when they count votes, Joe Biden expands his lead. In Georgia, when they count votes, Joe Biden expands his lead. Out here in the West, the president has made some gains. It's been a little bit of a seesaw. Sometimes Biden does, sometimes the president does. But the president has made gains here. He's cut into a lead that was larger than that at one point. So you want to keep counting the votes. And then Nevada, we expect in a couple hours more results. You see how close it is, 22,657 statewide. We expect more. This is the decisive county. You see it there. More than 70% of the vote, as much as 75% of the vote when they're all said and done in Nevada will come from Clark County, and we expect more votes today. So if you've been with us the last 5 days, you understand and you're waiting, but we are potentially at that decisive moment, because if we get votes out of Pennsylvania that confirm Biden's lead continues to grow, that would do it. That's enough right there. 273 would make Joe Biden not the Democratic nominee anymore, the Democratic candidate anymore. That would make him president-elect. And then, as we've said, he has the potential, will count for the rest of the day, but we may well know by the end of the day if Joe Biden can get that high, 306 electoral votes. That appears to be his ceiling. That would match the president's total from 4 years ago. But this one here is the one that matters most right here. 20 electoral votes. It's the largest prize on the board. And so if you come over here and you just zoom in, that's what we're waiting for. Every vote matters in every state across the country, but this is the state that at any moment could put Joe Biden over the top.
Let's check in with Brian Todd. He's in Pittsburgh for us right now, Allegheny County. Brian, understand votes are about to come in where you are?
Wolf, we expect another batch of vote count to come here probably within the next couple of hours. They're not really giving us a timeline. They just started counting behind me a little over an hour ago here. I'll move to the side here, and our photojournalist Jay McMichael will take you into where the ballot counters are working. They're working on those 29,000 misprinted ballots that came in that they had to correct and mail out back again to voters with the correct information on them. So those came in a little late. So they're working on those. We were told by Rich Fitzgerald, the executive of Allegheny County, that they've got about 20,000 more of those to go through of the 29,000. So that's what they're doing right now. They've been at this pretty much all morning. The observers are here in the foreground. And these, according to Rich Fitzgerald, these ballots will take longer to get through because they have to open the envelopes, they have to check to see if the ballot in question is maybe a duplicate or not. They have to go through some other things on that ballot to make sure it's the correct ballot. Now, these ballots, as we said, had the initial ballots that were mailed out had bad information on them. They had some candidates that were mailed to voters, some candidates that were not really running for office in those districts, so they couldn't vote for those people, but they could vote legitimately for the president. So some of those ballots, they have to check to make sure that the votes that they cast were for the president and not for the incorrect candidates down ballot. So that's one of the issues that they're checking to see if the vote coming in is correctly filled out. So it takes time. And we're going to get probably some additional votes maybe in the next couple of hours, Wolf, as we monitor the situation here.
So just remind us, Brian, how many outstanding ballots are there in Allegheny County where you are around Pittsburgh? And are they all mail-in ballots?
Yes, they're almost, just about all of them are mail-in ballots. There are at least 20,000 outstanding ballots in Allegheny County that they have left to count. And they said it might take, into the weekend, but, we hope to get a significant amount of them back within the next couple of hours. Maybe not all of them, because they've been giving them to us, Wolf, in just small batches of a few thousand here or there. So we expect that will probably happen today. But, by the end of the day, we hope to get, a pretty significant amount of those vote counts in.
Brian Todd, we'll get back to you. Thank you. John, 20,000 ballots in Allegheny County. You can see it's a pretty blue county over there around Pittsburgh. We're going to get those numbers, I suspect, fairly soon. Almost all of them mail-in ballots. And we know that Biden does really well. Trump does not do that well with these mail-in ballots.
Right. You see the overall percentage here, 59 to 39. That's Allegheny County. It's Pittsburgh and the suburbs around it. And you see, if I come back out to the statewide look, President does pretty well, very well, in Western Pennsylvania. The city of Pittsburgh itself, blue-collar, labor unions back Biden. So you do see the Democrats winning the city area, the urban area, but the president does all right. But what we have seen consistently is in this county and statewide, you see the president at 39% here in Allegheny County. You see him at 49% when you go statewide. Look, you see all that red. The president has strong support in Pennsylvania, but what we have seen consistently over now the last 3+ days is when they count these mail-in ballots, Joe Biden routinely, disproportionately. His total statewide is 50. He'll get 60, 70, sometimes more than 80% if we're talking about Southeast Pennsylvania here. Out here last night when Brian Todd and the executive out there were bringing us votes, Joe Biden was consistently above 60 and 70% in the mail-in ballot counts. Why? Democrats voted by mail in this unorthodox, unprecedented pandemic election. Republicans tended to turn out much more on Election Day. So what is left to count tells you, we know it favors Biden because that's how Democrats voted, not just in Pennsylvania, but across America. So when you have more than 6.6 million cast and a 28,833 vote lead, what we're looking for is just proof that this trajectory, slow build continues, because it will be a narrow victory. But for anyone out there saying, wow, President carried the state by 40,000 votes 4 years ago. It's a very competitive state. President did a good job. He got more votes this time than he did last time. The Democrats have just done a better job, and they're inching up to the finish line. Wolf, as we comment again, Brian says those could come any minute. going to move the state up for you here. We also know, as I said, right here, it's this, if you look at the size of Pennsylvania, you think this is the tiny southeast corner. This is the population center. Democrats need to run it up here. And if you go through these counties, you start first in the city of Philadelphia. Sorry about that. I went across the line here. You come here, you start in the city of Philadelphia, and you come up, look at that, 81%. And in the mail-in ballots, it's been higher than that. You come up to Bucks County, it's the more competitive of the counties, suburban collar counties, but in the mail-in ballots, Joe Biden has been well ahead of that. So we have a couple hundred here, a couple thousand there. They're going to start to come in this morning. Joe Biden inching closer to a decisive moment. And again, this would be fitting for Joe Biden. It would be poetic in some ways. He was born in the state, number one, and number two, when he announced his candidacy, he said his mission. He believed he was the strongest Democrat to take Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin back. He's got 2 of the 3 prizes. If he gets the third, he's president.
They retain Minnesota as well. Kate Baldwin's in Philadelphia for us, watching all this unfold. So, Kate, what are you hearing about Philadelphia? That's the largest batch of votes potentially out there.
That's exactly right. And we have just received an update on timing. I'm having a mixed minus issue, guys, so I'm going to take this out of my ear. We're just got an update on timing and amount. We are told by sources that we should expect between 2,000 and 3,000 votes to be counted and updated to the system soon. One source telling us by noon, another source saying it could be more like early afternoon. And as we have seen throughout this process, Wolf, that the timing of uploading and finalizing, getting these votes into the system and counted, the timing can slip. There are a lot of factors that go into getting it from the beginning to the end, and so the timing can slip. But importantly, especially on this day, with 20,000 mail-in votes left outstanding here in Philadelphia, at least the first update of the day will be coming soon. 2,000 to 3,000 is what we're told by sources. One source saying by noon Eastern, another saying it could be early afternoon. And this very possibly is not the final update from the day. We know they're getting through these ballots. They're beginning that review process that is a slower, more labor-intensive process, but they're definitely up and running now. Wolf?
All right, thanks very much, Kate. Let's talk about that in Philadelphia right now. And in Philadelphia, you see how Biden has 80.8%, Trump has 18.3%. Potentially, if these mail-in ballots come in Philadelphia, he might wind up Biden getting 70, 80, maybe 85% of those ballots.
You're exactly right, because he has consistently exceeded the numbers in any county, even in the red counties where President Trump is winning. You look at Joe Biden's number, then they count the mail-in ballots, and with 1 or 2 exceptions, as we've gone through this dozens of times over the last 3 days, Joe Biden exceeds that number, matches it or exceeds it. So 80%, 81%, if you round up in Philadelphia. We have had reports, installments of votes come in, where he's getting 87% and higher. And so that's the key point. So Kate Baldwin just mentioned 20,000 votes outstanding here in the city of Philadelphia. It's the number one population center in the state by far. So you get 2,000 to 3,000 of those. There's 20,000 out. You get 2,000 to 3,000 of those. So it's 10% or more, maybe, of what they have left, right? And so Democrats are asking, why haven't you called this race, right? It's 3.3 million votes, 3.3 million votes. Joe Biden said 28,800. You think about a universe of roughly 100,000 left. If Joe Biden gets above 30,000, starts to build beyond that, then you feel more comfortable, because you've seen out here in the western part of the state, then a new installment here in the southeastern part of the state, Joe Biden getting 60, 70, 80% or more of those votes. At some point, the trajectory gets you past any probability that the president of the United States is going to come back. And for those who say, well, you're already at that point, the president is attacking this process, right? That's not how we have our own rules. We have our own process. But especially when the process is under attack, sticking to the rules, using your building blocks, methodically getting to the finish line, and being cautious is a great way to do it. If they start bringing in some more votes, we will know the outcome in Pennsylvania, perhaps sometime today. But we completely get the frustration and the anticipation out there. It's just important to have rules and not bend them, especially at a time the integrity of the system is being unfairly attacked by the candidate who, if he loses this state, is a one-term president.
Yeah. All right, we're watching this and we're embracing for more numbers coming in fairly soon. Let's check in with Jake to see what else is going on. Jake?
Thanks, Wolf, and hello, world. We're back again, day 5 of election night in America, and we do think that there will be some resolution today. We do think that there will be some indication of what the future will bring for the United States. As you note there, you see on the side of the screen, there are 4 states. The margins in Georgia are getting better for Biden. The margin in Nevada is getting better for Biden. The margin in Pennsylvania is getting better for Biden. And in Arizona, actually, it's gotten a little bit worse for Biden, a little bit better for President Trump. Let's check in with the campaigns right now. Jeff Zeleny is covering the Biden campaign. He's in Wilmington, Delaware. And Jeff, a lot of impatient Democrats out there, understandably so. How is former Vice President Biden doing?
Well, Jake, good morning. I'm told by talking to a variety of Democrats, Joe Biden is actually very patient. He's very calm, much more so than some of his supporters and donors and others who are growing impatient about this. But I am told that the former vice president is looking forward. He believes that victory is at hand, and he believes, and his advisors believe, it will happen at some point during the coming hours or sometime today. But he is looking forward, specifically focusing on the challenges ahead of coronavirus. He is going to move forward through his transition. I'm told he's not going to be deciding on any members of the cabinet for a few weeks, but he will be focusing on coronavirus, and look for some type of announcement on that to come in the very soon hours or days after he declares victory, which he expects to do at some point. And it is because of these rising challenges, the rising numbers. As we've been talking about election numbers, of course, he's been getting briefings every day, sometimes a few times a day, on the rising cases of coronavirus. So I'm told he's going to put in place some type of a Biden COVID-19 task force, like the one we saw in the White House, which we've not seen for days or weeks. So that is what his focus is on, even as Democrats, of course, around him are waiting for that victory speech. The stage, as you can see, Jake, you've seen all week, is still set up behind me here. It is the anticipation that they would still use it for some type of a victory speech. But as this goes on further, the reality and the challenges here are the important moments. So do these fireworks still seem appropriate given the deaths in coronavirus cases? That is something that the Biden team is talking about. But the transition, even though it's not being talked about, is well underway behind the scenes, Jake.
If, in fact, he wins, he will have a lot of work to do, especially when it comes to rebuilding the economy and trying to contain the coronavirus. Jeff Zeleny, thank you so much for that update. Let's go now to the White House, where we find Jim Acosta, who's been covering the Trump White House and the Trump campaign. And Jim, there has been this mad scramble by Trump and his supporters to try to find evidence, try to find any reason why the ballots and the vote counting should be questioned. I have not seen anything. Have they found anything even remotely credible yet?
Not yet, Jake. And I will tell you, I just spoke with a Trump advisor about this just a short while ago. And as the president is tweeting all of these unfounded rumors and baseless accusations, a pretty stunning admission from one Trump advisor I'm speaking with. And this person is saying, we have found nothing concrete, quote, nothing concrete in terms of allegations of voter fraud. I think that is significant, Jake, because as the president is saying these things publicly, there are people inside the campaign, inside Trump world, Republicans up on Capitol Hill, Republican operatives that I speak with, they are all telling me the same thing, that the president is making baseless allegations about voter fraud that at this point simply don't exist. And so even though the president is flailing at this point and wanting this thing to be dragged out, it doesn't sound like they have anything in terms of hard evidence that would, hold up in any kind of courtroom or anywhere for that matter. And so this is just the president, I think, at the end of the game, trying to cry foul, try to complain about the refs, complain about the officials as much as possible to see how long he can drag it out. We should point out, just a short while ago, he did leave in his motorcade from the White House. We suspect he may be heading off to the golf course, which I suppose there are going to be officials inside the campaign and so on who are going to be relieved if they can somehow separate him from his smartphone for a brief period of time, because obviously, there are people inside the campaign who just feel like he's making matters worse. And on top of all of that, Jake, we should point out, this White House is once again looking like a hot zone for the coronavirus. More cases of the coronavirus were discovered overnight, including the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows. That's something else that we're tracking over here, in addition to what is going to happen with the resolution of this election, is whether or not it's even safe to work inside the White House, which is sort of an incredible commentary on where we are right now, Jake.
Yeah, this would be like something like the third or fourth outbreak in the White House of the coronavirus. They're not exactly sticklers when it comes to wearing masks, I think it's fair to say. Jim Acosta,
Really?
thanks so much.
That's right.
Appreciate it. We're going to come back to you as matters develop. You know, it's sad to see the president tweeting these lies, one after the other. But at this point, frankly, it's almost irrelevant. You know, we're at the point now where one of these states, data is going to come in, and we're going to be able to call it. And there's not one of those states trending red right now.
Right. I agree. The only thing it is relevant to, or the only people, those tweets which are lies about things we won't even talk about, are people who, the tens of millions of people who read his tweets and believe what he says. And, you know, we've lived through this kind of alternate universe for 5 years now. But when we're talking about one of the basic tenets of democracy, which is the peaceful transition of power, it takes it to another level. And let's just hope that this is the transition period, or as one of his advisors told me yesterday, his grieving period, and he'll get to the other side when the numbers become more clear, because the people who listen to him have to be brought along to the notion that this was not illegitimate, that this was not laden with fraud, that this was done appropriately.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the president needs to bring his people along to get to that conclusion. What he is doing right now is not helping. Mm-hmm. It's hurting that process. And there, at some point, will need to be, as you've said repeatedly, a real intervention from Republican leaders with this president about what's going on. But I think people might be confused as to why that hasn't happened yet. And I think the answer is pretty simple. This is still Donald Trump's Republican Party, whether he is reelected or not. And Republicans in Washington, some of whom were just reelected to their offices, some of whom are facing reelection the next 2 years or 4 years, they know that they will need the president's supporters. Yep. And so there is a fear, a real fear in Washington right now about how to handle this, how not to alienate these people, and what will happen if President Trump is not reelected and he's no longer on the ballot to help them out, to bring these people out to the polls. So that's what, you know, you talk about a grieving period. There's a grieving period happening for the rest of Washington as well on the Republican side. But at some point, the fate of the country has to come before that. And I do think it will. It's just a matter of time.
There's you see some of that in statements from Republican leaders, the more sane ones, like Senator Mitt Romney or Congressman Adam Kinzinger, people who understand that maybe the fat lady hasn't sung, but she is sure clearing her throat. And the idea that it's time to start praising President Trump's accomplishments. The Republican Party had a fantastic night, other than at the top of the ticket. They've picked up seats in the House. As of right now, they've held on to the Senate. They've held on to all their legislatures, et cetera. President Trump has a number of accomplishments that Republicans can be proud of when it comes to Supreme Court justices, when it comes to tax cuts, when it comes to deregulation, when it comes to criminal justice reform. It is time for Republicans to start praising Caesar and preparing to bury him, both. Because it is very clear what is going on. Yeah. It is not helpful, as you note, that there are Republicans competing for the MAGA voters who are ginning up and following Republicans, by the way, who know better.
Yes.
Like Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Lindsey Graham, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, people who know better, who know that there is no evidence of fraud.
That's exactly right.
And it's time for them to come back to planet Earth. It looks as though the Trump era is in its last throes. I mean, anything could happen, I suppose, but it certainly looks that way. And it's time for them to start doing what's best for not just the country, but also themselves.
So I agree with you that the Trump era might be coming to a close now, but the Trump grip on the Republican Party is nowhere near over. And that is the calculation that those lawmakers have been making for a long time. And look, I mean, there's already open speculation, informed speculation, that if in fact the numbers continue to go where they go, and the president is a one-term president, the first since George H.W. Bush, that he will run again in 2024. I mean, that is not a wild thought, because that is something that he, is talking about. Maybe he's joking, maybe he's not, but we can obviously see that happening. And so that is the reality that these Republicans are living in right now.
Don't go anywhere. We are waiting for new numbers, votes from Pennsylvania that could put Joe Biden over the top and into the White House. Stay with us. Our special coverage continues next.
Through the walk of life, Walgreens has always been there to help make life easier. And now we're doing the same with Medicare, so you can easily find the best, most affordable plan for you. Visit walgreens.com/Medicare to get started. Walgreens, we make Medicare easy. A great future awaits us. Of the perfect life. The time has come to act.
You are the mother of humanity. I can save humanity from itself.
People are worth saving.
I'm Bill Weir from CNN.
How many people are in these kind of conditions?
Climate change is here. Imagine that wall of flame. This just happened. I've never seen anything like this.
It's a full-blown disaster. To adapt is to survive.
My heart breaks for you.
We must get it right. It's life.
Did you know a blender is actually a lot like a car? We're talking horsepower, design, safety features, technology, and of course, how much did I pay? But does any of that really matter? It matters if you're in charge of the margaritas. Unrivaled research, unbiased reviews, undiscovered gems, uncovering the best. CNN Underscored. See all our reviews and recommendations at underscored.com.
Imagine right now, it's all on us.
Everything's building to this moment.
Believe me, it's extraordinary.
Okay, you're all set.
Thanks, Mom.
Now that you do it all from home, make sure your home can do it all with Xfinity XFi.
We have to figure out the best way to get where we want to be. Let's get after it. The death toll is climbing. Cases are still going up.
This virus has enormous capabilities of spreading like wildfire.
When you see something that you know is wrong, you call the police. Why didn't he call 911? States need help. The federal government's quiet on too much.
Black Lives Matter should not be a partisan debate.
The virus is a contagious virus. It's getting out of control.
Cuomo Prime Time, weeknights at 9 Eastern.
Welcome back. We're watching 4 key battlegrounds right now, and they are Georgia, Biden is ahead there by 7,248 votes. Nevada, Biden is ahead there by 22,657 votes. Pennsylvania, Biden is ahead there by 28,833 votes. Arizona, Biden is ahead there by 29,861 votes. Four key battlegrounds. Pamela Brown, you're at the CNN voting desk. Where are the outstanding votes right now, especially in Pennsylvania?
Well, there are 4 key states that we're looking at, Wolf, as you well know. And this morning, we could be getting the release of data from these mail-in ballots in some of these states that could put Joe Biden over the edge. And we're looking at Pennsylvania first. We're starting there because that is the state that could do it this morning. It has 76,000 ballots outstanding, 101,000 provisional ballots. Philadelphia, we're expecting to release more results this morning, perhaps, as we have reporting that they could release up to 3,000 by noon. Now in Georgia, looking there, approximately 12,770 provisional ballots there in Georgia, up to 8,400 overseas and military ballots. Now, I want to mention that these are ballots that were sent out, but we don't know the number that has actually been returned there in Georgia, and we know the deadline for that was on Friday. There's also counting underway right now in Gwinnett County, right outside of Atlanta, another Democratic stronghold. In Arizona, we're also expecting an update there, and its largest county, Maricopa. It has 126,000 ballots altogether in Arizona, 47,000 provisional ballots. So we'll wait for that update from Maricopa. That's an important one there in Arizona. And finally, you have Nevada, what we're keeping a close eye on. 124,500 ballots there, 60,000 provisional ballots. And we are expecting an important update from Clark County at 12 p.m. Eastern time. That, again, is another important county there in Nevada, the home of Las Vegas. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But really, right now, so much attention is on Pennsylvania, Wolf.
Certainly is. All right, Pamela, we'll get back to you. You know, John, if Biden were to win all 4 of these contests that we just discussed, he would wind up with 306 electoral votes, which is exactly the same number that Trump won 4 years ago, 306 electoral votes. He won Pennsylvania by about, 44,000 votes. Right. Yeah, he called that a landslide 4 years ago. But it would be intriguing that if he wins all 4, Biden, 306, Trump won 306 4 years ago.
Right, and you're remaking the map, and that's the political statement a President Biden would like to make. This is Pennsylvania. We're waiting for this to come in. As Pam just noted, could be any minute. More votes out of Pittsburgh, more votes out of Philadelphia. That could get you to the decisive point. But to your point, Wolf, number one, Joe Biden believes that as a statement. More votes than any candidate for president in the history of the United States of America. That's likely to go over 75 million. The president is number 2. So Dana made this point earlier. His grip on the Republican Party, he may well lose the White House, and he may well know that within a matter of hours. Donald Trump can say, I got 70 million votes. I still have a grip over this party. It's the Trump party. It's not the Republican Party anymore. And that will be a dynamic that continues even if Donald Trump has to leave the White House. But to Joe Biden's point, 75 million votes. Last night he said he thinks he has a mandate to govern. Look, the Republicans may still control the Senate. We don't know that yet. 2 runoffs in the state of Georgia. 2 runoffs there to control the balance of power. Still an evenly divided country if you look at the House elections, you look at the Senate elections. So how does Joe Biden make that case? Well, number one, to Democrats, he says, I'm your leader because I did what I said I would do. I said I would flip Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania back, and we're still waiting on the final one there. But if he's successful, he can say, this is why I ran. I was right. That helps in politics. It's very important when you're trying to sway people over, reach compromise, get some people, say progressives, who want him to be more ambitious and more bold on climate change and other issues, to get them to be more patient and to take his way. This would be another statement, as would this. When you're a new president, you want to be able to get in the room with the Republicans, who will still have a lot of power, and say, the American people just told you to listen to me. That has been a Republican state. Not since Bill Clinton in 1992 has a Democrat carried it for president. That has been a Republican state. Not since Bill Clinton in 1996, in an election running against Bob Dole and Ross Perot, has a Democrat carried that. So it gives you some political leverage to go into the room and tell Republicans, your voters are turning on you. You should listen to me. Now, that doesn't mean it works. Washington is an incredibly polarized place, but it gives Biden some leverage as he goes into it. And that's the point he's trying to make as he remakes this map a bit. Not a fundamental wow change in the map, but an important change in the map. This gives him credibility with Democrats. This gives him a little bit more credibility with Republicans. Just one perspective, Wolf. I always look at this, and Democrats get mad at me when I do this, but I like to show this because the polarization of America is going nowhere. Joe Biden may well, by the end of this day, have a very impressive win for the presidency. But just like Barack Obama and just like Donald Trump, he will become president of a very divided country. You see all this red. That's how America voted by county. Now, Democrats at home are already saying nobody lives here. They're right. These are less populous counties, but these states still get 2 senators. Right? And those senators, overwhelmingly from this part of the country, are Republicans. That's what complicates the politics. This is the fight over the Senate. This is the fight over the Electoral College. This is the fight over should you have the filibuster. I get it. All those fights will be waiting for the new president. But if you look at the map, you see Democrats incredibly strong on the coasts, incredibly strong on the coast. That's why when you come out of this, that's why this is significant to Joe Biden. To get a win in Georgia, to pick up in Arizona would give him some more leverage. How much? That's what the next 100 days, of the first 100 days of the administration would teach us. But this map, it tells us red and blue. It also tells us a lot that America is still in a tug of war and the politics are still evenly divided. But again, if you can, that's a statement. That's a statement. You set out on day one saying that's what I would do. If on the decisive day you can prove you did it, that matters in politics. It gives you credibility.
And we heard Biden say last night, one of the major thrusts of his speech, he wants to unite the country now, try to bring the country together, assuming he becomes president of the United States.
Just quickly, that's a fascinating dynamic because we do know, let's assume Mitch McConnell stays as the majority leader. Again, there will be 2 runoffs. 2 runoffs in the state of Georgia that could well determine
runoffs for the Senate.
For the Senate, whether the Democrats get 50 and then Kamala Harris would break the tie as vice president. We don't know that yet, and we might not know that until the middle of January. Joe Biden does have a relationship of trust with Mitch McConnell. I'm not saying they're friends. I'm not saying they agree on much. But during the Obama administration, when they were cutting deals with McConnell, Biden's word was good in the sense that if Mitch McConnell gave Biden his word, he trusted him. And if Biden gave Mitch McConnell his word, he trusted him. That was a long time ago. You say it's only 4 years ago, right? It seems like a very long time ago and how Washington has changed. But there are little things. The question is, again, to that point, so Biden has a relationship of trust, not policy agreement, but trust with McConnell to cut compromises, which is what Biden says he wants to do. How much leverage does Mitch McConnell have to do that when he got 70 million votes? And even if he's gone from the White House, any of you been on social media? He has a Twitter presence. He has other ways of making clear what he wants Republicans to do. So today could be a decisive day in the presidential race. It also will turn the page to what will be a fascinating new chapter in politics.
We're expecting, John, a bunch of votes to come in from Arizona fairly soon. Bill Weir is in Phoenix for us right now. So, Bill, what's the latest over there? What are you hearing?
Well, they're at their places here in Maricopa County as we expect a new set of numbers in less than half an hour here today. And there will be 2 big number dumps today, and that'll pretty much make it all over but the shouting. We have seen since the Associated Press called this state, Joe Biden's lead eroded by more than half as these counties like Navajo and Yuma and Cochise and Yavapai, John McCain country, start to give the president more and more votes. Last night, he picked up another 7,000 here in Maricopa. But of course, the 2 biggest counties are the last to finish voting, and that is Maricopa, that is Pima County. And this election, of course, in Arizona is thrown upside down by the president's own behavior. Typically, because so many people here vote absentee, Republicans would get their ballots in earlier. They verify those signatures, so those get counted first. And then Democrats would wait till the last minute, get them in, and you'd see a blue surge at the end, the way we're seeing around the country. This year, because the president, injected so much doubt into the mail, we don't know what these last ballots are going to bring us here. And so it could go down, if Joe Biden holds on to Arizona, as the biggest example of sort of political self-sabotage ever.
All right, Bill Weir, we'll stay in very close touch with you as well. We'll get those numbers coming in, we assume, in about a half an hour. John, stand by. We're expecting also lots of results. Thousands of ballots in Pennsylvania could be coming in very soon, and that could decide the race for the White House. Our special coverage continues right after this.
Through the walk of life, Walgreens has always been there to help make life easier. And now we're doing the same with Medicare, so you can easily find the best, most affordable plan for you. Visit walgreens.com/Medicare to get started. Walgreens, we make Medicare easy.
80% of bacteria in your mouth aren't even on teeth.
80%?
Colgate Total is different. It fights bacteria in your whole mouth, protecting 100% of your mouth surfaces. Colgate Total, antibacterial protection for a healthier mouth.
Did you know a blender is actually a lot like a car? We're talking horsepower, design, safety features, technology, And of course, how much did I pay? But does any of that really matter? It matters if you're in charge of the margaritas. Unrivaled research, unbiased reviews, undiscovered gems, uncovering the best. CNN Underscored. See all our reviews and recommendations at underscore.com.
Imagine right now, it's all on us.
Everything's building to this moment. Believe me, it's extraordinary.
A great future awaits us. I had this idea of the perfect life.
The time has come to act.
You are the mother of humanity. I can save humanity from itself.
People are worth saving.
CNN International is open to the world.
I'm Christiana Manpour in Helsinki, Finland. I'm Becky Emerson in Abu Dhabi.
I'm here in a remote part of southern India.
From the New York Stock Exchange, Port Elizabeth,
Birmingham,
Puerto Rico, Hong Kong, London,
Damascus, Jerusalem,
Moscow,
Rome,
Nairobi.
Go international, anytime, anywhere, from selected devices. Stream it live now.
Exhausted before we've even started.
CNN Go International.
I'm Bill Weir from CNN. How many people are in these kind of conditions?
Climate change is here.
Imagine that wall of flame. This just happened. I've never seen anything like this.
It's a full-blown disaster. To adapt is to survive.
My heart breaks for you.
We must get it right. It's life.
We have to figure out the best way to get where we want to be. Let's get after it. The death toll is climbing. Cases are still going up.
This virus has enormous capabilities of spreading like wildfire.
When you see something that you know is wrong, you call the police. Why didn't he call 911? States need help. The federal government's quiet on too much.
Black Lives Matter should not be a partisan debate.
The virus is a contagious virus. It's getting out of control.
Cuomo Prime Time, weeknights at 9 Eastern. This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
Let's go.
Take us with you. CNN on Sirius XM 116.
And welcome back. We continue to watch the votes being counted. We anticipate getting more numbers in very shortly, and perhaps some form of resolution shortly as well. There you see the numbers in Georgia, a 7,000 lead by Biden, but it is Pennsylvania where so many eyes are on, and where we have been seeing Vice President Biden's lead just increasing hour by hour over the last several days. Gloria, if it is Pennsylvania that gives Joe Biden the presidency, there would be some certainly significance for the Biden family in that. First of all, today, November 7th, in 1972, Joe Biden was elected to the Senate for the first time.
At the age of 29.
48 years ago today. So there's certainly for Joe Biden, there would be relevance in that. And as John mentioned, Pennsylvania is the state that got him there. It's the state that he was born in. There's a lot of memories for him there. It's the state that launched his campaign for the presidency. And he really framed this race as a battle between Scranton and Park Avenue.
He did. You know, he was born in there, and his family was forced to leave Scranton because his father lost his job. And the family moved to Wilmington and eventually, but, he sees Scranton as his home. And he is a son of Wilmington, obviously a senator from the state of Pennsylvania, but very close. From the state of Delaware. But he feels very close to both states. And I think for him, it is where he believes his values come from, that he is the son of somebody who struggled financially. They lived in this very modest house with his aunts, his uncles, his mom, dad, brothers, sisters. And that is where he says he was born politically to a degree. And it is why he says he believes in what he believes and has, as you say, framed the campaign as someone who understands Main Street against somebody who understands Park Avenue.
And the argument that Biden will make and has already said is that he has rebuilt the blue wall.
Yeah, look, I think there's something to that. I've been thinking the last few days, and this will irritate some Democrats, but could another Democrat have done what he did here? I think it's very questionable. He did have reach into to voters and areas that perhaps other Democrats didn't, particularly in the industrial Midwest. And I'm reminded of the fact that one of the many reasons that Barack Obama chose him in 2008 was because there was this recognition. We just parked him in those states because he knew how to talk to folks there. He felt culturally akin to them. So, I think he has a real claim to that. The question for the party is what happens post-Biden. But right now, he was the right guy to put this back together.
His complaint about Hillary Clinton's campaign was that she didn't campaign in those states enough that you're talking about, and that's why.
But it's not just that she didn't campaign there; she really didn't connect there.
That's right.
And Biden culturally connected with constituencies that she did not. He obviously got mamboed in these rural areas, but he did get 8% more than Hillary Clinton did among white non-college voters, and he ran up the score in suburban areas where his moderation was actually a plus with independent voters.
Is mamboed one of those
mamboed?
I
didn't
It's a political word.
Mamboed.
It's a political word. I'll send you the whole dictionary.
Okay, is that like anyway? For Pennsylvania, I mean, you yesterday were talking about the numbers in Pennsylvania and looking at them, and I know you continue to look at the numbers coming in, and what does that tell you about these allegations?
Well, I'm looking at it candidly. I'm looking at for evidence. Is there any monkey business going on to see if there's something that sort of sticks out that that they stacked the vote or there's any anomalies?
Which is what the allegations being made by
the allegations. But yeah, so if we're going to make those allegations, obviously you have to prove them with facts. But also, it's good to look at what do the numbers show, that if there are anomalies in the numbers that show that that's the case. And so I was just looking at them, and because we're getting these from Allegheny County. Joe Biden is doing 2.5% better than Hillary Clinton in Allegheny County. Now you'd say, wow, I mean, that's Western Pennsylvania, and it must be the city of Pittsburgh. But in a suburban county next to Westmoreland, which is Trump country, big number, he's doing 2.5% better there too. You go north, his last big rally was in Butler County, which is where I lived most of my childhood. He's doing 3% better in Butler County than Hillary Clinton. You go to Washington County, which is south, again, Trump country. He's doing 2% better. Beaver County is only doing 1% better, but the idea is he's doing better everywhere down there, and Allegheny County is not an anomaly. And so, again, if you're looking for fraud, you'd have to look at, well, where are they moving numbers sufficiently that would look outside what the norm is? And again, I don't see it.
The numbers don't show it.
Doesn't mean it's not happening. Yeah. And then on the other side of the state, so that's southwestern Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, which is Biden country, he's done 7% better in Chester County, which is a wealthy primarily a wealthy suburban county. Montgomery County, 5% better. Delaware County, 4% better. Bucks County, 5% better. Wow. Philadelphia, where the fraud is supposedly taking place, he's doing 4.5% worse than Hillary Clinton.
That's crazy.
And in the suburban counties, the vote is up 10 to 12%. In Philadelphia County, it's only up 3%. So again, if you're looking at, well, I know these are a lot of numbers, and maybe I'm not explaining it well, but I guess
it's interesting.
It shows to me that in the areas that you would expect the fraud to occur, the big cities, you don't really see it. You see Philadelphia, actually, Trump did better. and the machine didn't crank out their vote like the rest of us.
David raised the question of could any other Democrat have done what Joe Biden did in Pennsylvania? You know the state well. What do you think?
Look, I campaigned for George Bush. I was the chairman of his committee in 2004, and look, I've run a lot of campaigns in Pennsylvania. I've never seen, including my own, I've never seen a better campaign in the state up until that point. We did everything right, and he lost. And the reason he lost is, I hate to say it, a Texas oil man never quite connected. And I would make the argument that that was true for Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. She never connected to the middle of, the swing voter in Pennsylvania, the lunch bucket voter. Donald Trump connected and did really, really well there 4 years ago. He still connected. He did really, really well there. But Joe Biden connected enough. I lost a race in 2006 to a guy, I don't know where you're doing this because I'm on the network, but if you have him on a lot, Bob Casey, I lost him. And the reason I lost him is because I ran against liberals in the past, and I was able to beat liberals because that's not Pennsylvania. And in the case of Bob Casey, he connected because he was from a Casey family.
And Biden did that as well.
Yeah, and so Biden is of that same image, and that's why I think he did well there.
All eyes on Pennsylvania this morning as we await results from thousands more ballots that could propel Joe Biden to the White House. Our special coverage continues right after this.
Are all retinol serums created equal? No. New number 7 Advanced Retinol Night Concentrate from America's #1 serum brand. 5 times more retinol than the #1 retinol serum, yet formulated to be gentle on your skin, delivering the combined power of retinol and Matrixyl 3000 Plus. Results after just 1 night. 5 times more retinol than the #1 retinol serum. New number 7 Advanced Retinol Night Concentrate. Number 7.
A great future awaits us.
This place is dangerous.
I had this idea of the perfect life. The time has come to act.
You are the mother of humanity. I can save humanity from itself.
People are worth saving.
Imagine right now, it's all on us.
Everything's building to this moment.
Believe me, it's extraordinary.
CNN International is open to the world.
I'm Christiana Manpour in Helsinki, Finland. I'm Becky Emerson in Abu Dhabi.
I'm here in a remote part of southern India.
From the New York Stock Exchange, Port Elizabeth,
Birmingham,
Puerto Rico, Hong Kong, London,
Damascus, Jerusalem,
Moscow,
Rome,
Nairobi.
Go international, anytime, anywhere, from selected devices. Stream it live now.
Exhausted before we've even started.
CNN Go International.
I'm Bill Weir from CNN.
How many people are in these kind of conditions?
Climate change is here.
Imagine that wall of flame. This just happened. I've never seen anything like this.
It's a full-blown disaster.
To adapt is to survive.
My heart breaks for you.
We must get it right. It's life.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
We're getting a slew of new vote totals from make or break battlegrounds. This nail-biter election is nearing the finish line. I'm Wolf Blitzer. We're told former Vice President Joe Biden believes this is the day he will become president-elect and seal a victory over President Trump. That could happen sometime soon, as Pennsylvania vote counters are very busy right now tallying ballots in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh. We're standing by for new results from the Keystone State at any moment. They're also making a big push to count outstanding ballots in Arizona. We expect thousands of votes to be revealed in the state's largest county at any moment. We're awaiting new results in Nevada as well. It might be all enough to give Joe Biden a new win or wins that would bump his electoral vote count from 253 to the winning number of 270. And Trump, with 213 electoral votes, is not in a position to stop him. Let's get a key race alert. Let's start off in Arizona. Some new numbers are just coming in. You can see Biden still maintains his lead, 28,052 over President Trump, 49.5% to 48.7%. 95% of the estimated vote is in Arizona, 11 electoral votes. In the critically important battleground state of Pennsylvania, right now, Biden maintains his lead of 28,833, 49.6% to 49.1%. 20 electoral votes in Pennsylvania, 96% of the estimated vote is in. Let's talk to John King about what's going on. This is crunch time for these candidates, and it's looking closer and closer for Biden.
It is crunch time. I was just looking at the vote count in Pennsylvania. You see 28,833 in a state where 3.33 million, 3.30 million. When you're going that deep into the decimal points, that tells you have a very close race. A lot of people think, wow, how competitive that is. So this was a heavyweight fight. It was a heavyweight fight 4 years ago. Donald Trump won it by 44,000 votes. It is a heavyweight fight this time as Joe Biden moves in. We expect new votes any moment now. We know there are new votes coming from Philadelphia. We know there are new votes coming from Pittsburgh. What do those two share in common? You can see they are Biden blue on the map. The question is, can Joe Biden build up a little more to that lead to get to the point where then the math tells you it is virtually impossible for the president to catch up. This has been a very impressive win. Again, you see it so close, and you think, well, it's competitive. That's not a blowout. No, it's not a blowout, but that's what makes it such a great fight. It's a heavyweight fight in the 15th round. You see in Philadelphia right here, 555,000 to 125,000. That 81% of the vote. This is where a Democrat has to have the big building block in the city of Philadelphia. But it's not just there. It's the suburbs around Philadelphia. But Senator Santorum was talking about this a little bit earlier. Wolf, you move around the state. No big Biden shifts from Hillary Clinton. No, he didn't go in and steal away tons of Trump voters, but he turned out Democrats. This is where he was born, Scranton, Lackawanna County, 53%, 54 if you round up to 45. You go back to 4 years ago, 50% there to 46. See the 50.2, you just get a little bit more. You just get a little bit more, right? So you're not blowing it out. It's not a game-changing election, but you move the dial a little bit in a close state. That's what makes the difference. You can also move down here. You come down here to Northampton County. It's not a very big county. You see 85,000 votes to 82,000 votes. It's almost a wash, right? So you think, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, let's go to Arizona right now. We're about to get a whole bunch of new votes from Arizona as well, and it's a critically important battleground state that we're watching. In Maricopa County, the largest county there in Arizona, Phoenix area, the vote is about to come in, and right now we see Biden maintains his lead of about 28,000 votes over Trump, but that lead has shrunk a bit over these past couple of days.
Yes, over the past couple of days, if you rewound the tape, you'd see a Biden lead of just shy of 50,000. It was 47,000 plus not that long ago. So as these votes have come in, Donald Trump has been slowly narrowing it. And you look at the map, you see all the red, not much population in the red, but the president, just like in Pennsylvania, has very strong support in rural America. And then you move in here, this is where the people are. 60% of your vote is going to come right here, Maricopa County. And you see it's competitive, right? 50 to 48, if you round that up, about 95% in. This will be the game right here. Maricopa County, you have more votes also down in Pima County. Phoenix, Tucson, suburbs around them, the two biggest population centers in the state of Arizona. So that's how you settle the race. But if you come in...
Hold on one second. I want to go to Bill Weir. He's in Phoenix for us. He's getting the votes right now. Update our viewers, Bill.
Yeah, Wolf, this is the last big significant dump of the biggest county here in the state of Arizona. My math's privileges have been revoked, which is a good call by the decision desk. So, John, I'll just give you the raw numbers. Biden-Harris, now 1,023,516 votes. Trump-Pence, 977,495. Doesn't look like the president made up as much ground as he needs to.
Yeah.
So
he certainly did not make up that much ground. You can see what's going on over there. Those are the total numbers that we're talking in Maricopa County right now.
Right, the numbers in the map. You see the numbers here in the map. We have to match this one up here. You see Joe Biden goes from 04, right, 04 up to 23, and you see the president jumps right here up a little bit. So you're just trying to see, are we getting to a point where the president can narrow the lead a little bit? And they'll post up there in just a minute. Let me just move this up out of the way a little bit so people can see what we're talking about here. You got 60% of the vote right here. And the question is, you're looking at percentages. Are you making up the percentage that you need?
We got the actual numbers. Biden got 19,513.
So let's blank it out. We'll get to the new numbers there. That's the way to go.
19,513.
Okay.
And Trump got 26,992.
Right. So again, the president there, he's obviously netting more votes. That's the important point. If you're the president, you're looking at this and you're saying, I'm netting more votes in these counts. But then, so that's good. You're making up ground. But then you come to the bigger question, and you come out statewide. Sorry about that. You bring it out here. Are you making up enough ground? That's the question. So now you see it down to 20,573. It was 47,000. The question is, can you narrow it to catch up the gap? Is the question.
It's down to 20,573 right now. Still a lead, but it's shrunk once again as these votes come in from Maricopa County.
Right, and as the votes come in, let me just move this out of the way again. So you look at Maricopa County. This is very telling and it's very helpful. It's a great tool, but sometimes you have to dig in. Just remember, Maricopa County is 60% of the vote. You see 50-48. That's very competitive. 4 years ago in Maricopa County, it was very competitive, and it was the president on top. We were just talking about this in Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is not going into counties and flipping them. We're not seeing 10-point swings in votes, but 49, 46, if you round there 4 years ago, right now it's a flip, 50-48. That's what you move the dial to 1 point, 2 points, 3% percentage points, excuse me. That's how you can flip a state. But we need to count, we need to continue here because this is the one in the other states, especially Georgia and Pennsylvania, as they count the late votes, Biden lead stretches. In Arizona, as they count them, Biden's lead has been shrinking.
So Biden still is ahead by 20,573, but it helps explain why CNN, our decision desk, decided not to project a winner in Arizona. We wanted the numbers to come in much more thoroughly.
Right. We get the frustration out there, but we spent months, actually years, looking at census changes, look at voting registration changes, and you make a set of rules. Here's our metric. We need to see this before we call the state for either candidate. Those are the rules. They were the rules the day before Election Day, so they have to be the rules on Election Day and in the 5 or 6 or 7 days after. You can't change the rules. We know if we call a certain state or two states, it's over. We can't do it just to do that, right? The rules have to be in place. You can have all your fireworks in place on July 3rd. You don't light them until July 4th. The clock has to reach the point. You have to, again, you just have to stick with the standards. You can guess. We have probability. Those of you at home can do math. A lot of very smart people in both the Democrat and the Republican Party on social media and elsewhere are publishing the percentages and the metrics and the likelihoods. That's all great, as long as that math is correct. But we have rules. We need to follow them.
So it's clear we're not going to project Arizona right now. So let's go back to Pennsylvania, where the vote, we're waiting for some more votes. They're supposed to come in any minute right now. What are you looking for, John?
Well, number one, you're just looking again if the percentages match up. Because let me go down here to Philadelphia, and this is where we know. We know that there are about 20,000 votes out, and we believe within moments we could get 2,000 to 3,000 of those votes. That's what our Kate Baldwin on the scene has said. Pam Brown has backed that up with her reporting from the voting desk. So we're looking at a universe, maybe 2,000, 3,500 of those votes. They have about 20,000 out. So we're going to get 10% or more of those votes. Statistically, that tells you something. Joe Biden getting 81% of the votes. Number one, you get new votes. That means it's a smaller universe of outstanding votes. So you're getting closer to knowing the final number. Number two, you're looking for consistency, right? Is Joe Biden continuing to perform? Or the president in Arizona, the point we were just making. The president is continuing to chip into the lead. You're looking at the ratio. How much is he cutting it by? Here, for Joe Biden, has been how much is he building it by? So he's getting 81% overall in these late ballots, mail-in ballots if they're counting. Joe Biden has been exceeding that. So does that continue? Do you continue to see math where Joe Biden is matching or exceeding what he's getting? And then you're counting on how many votes still outstanding, what percentage is Joe Biden getting, and how high does that raise the bar for President Trump to catch up? So you're watching it there. And again, you come out here, it's more competitive. But it's the very same dynamic. The votes we received this morning from Allegheny County, Joe Biden got higher than that percentage. So Biden is building, Trump is not catching. That's the dynamic you're looking for. And again, our great decision desk people, they know how many votes have been cast now. They have a statistical model that tells them if we reach this point, you declare a winner, no matter who that winner is. You declare a winner, you reach a certain point. Joe Biden is inching up to that metric. He's just not quite there yet, which is what you're looking for as you go through. Right before you went to Arizona, Wolf, I just was talking about how how Joe Biden has moved the bar here, right? Again, you look at it so competitive and you think not a lot changed. Well, number one, Democrats turned out. But little things like this. This is Northampton County, 49.8, 48.9. You think, okay, what's the significance of that? Well, let's go back in time. Donald Trump carried this county, again, very narrowly, right? But in a heavyweight battle county like this, he's a little on top, she's behind. That matters, because if you go back in time, in 2012, this is one of what I call the pivot counties, about 206 of them across America. Obama wins them twice, and then Trump wins them. If you study politics, that's what you want to know. How does that happen? How do people vote twice for Barack Obama and then flip for Donald Trump? That was Trump's appeal. So you see it here. Obama gets 51. Again, it's a very competitive place. Obama gets 51. Trump gets 50. Biden is about to get 50 there. And again, you say that's not such a big deal, but if you do it in Northampton and then you do it in Erie, there are 3 pivot counties in Pennsylvania. Right now, Joe Biden is on the verge of flipping 2 of them. It gets you 10,000 votes, 5,000 votes here, 10,000 votes there. That gets you 28,000, almost 29,000 there, and you build your path until you hit the line, and we're getting really close to it.
And there's not a whole lot of votes outstanding in Pennsylvania right now. But what the votes that are outstanding are in the Pittsburgh, Allegheny County area and in the southeastern part, that heavily Democratic part of the state.
Right. We talked to Brian Todd earlier. He's right there in the room, too. Let's emphasize that, especially at a time when the President of the United States and his allies are stirring up all this dust about irregularities. We have reporters in the room. Organizations have, other organizations do. Democrats and Republicans, importantly, have people in the room. There are cameras in the room. People are counting votes. People are counting votes. It's fully transparent. If you see anything wrong, go to the right place and file a complaint on paper with your evidence. When you hear people talking about this, on either side, we just need to discount it. The proof is in the pudding, if you will. But here you go. We've been watching this for days. Joe Biden getting 59% countywide in these late mail-in ballots, significantly higher. Again, that's what gets you closer to meeting your metric, and we're expecting more votes from here shortly. And then again, the major population center of the state, I'm going to move Pennsylvania up a little bit, is here. And we know 20,000 votes still outstanding in Philadelphia, and Pam Brown can correct my figures, but there's just a couple thousand when you go around here. Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County, and you come back here to Philadelphia City. What are they all common? They're blue, slightly different percentages. Joe Biden is running it up huge in Philadelphia County. You come up to Bucks County, it's the more competitive of the suburbs in that collar right around the city. But Joe Biden's winning it. This is the more competitive one, but in the mail-in ballots, winning it higher. So you just go county to county. They're counting the votes, a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. What we're waiting for, just to see another batch that confirms the trajectory to make sure there's no late disruption in that. And guess what? 28,000 votes there. You get Joe Biden at 30,000, heading toward 35,000, then the math is pretty convincing. We'll see when these votes come in.
Well, they might be coming in Allegheny County. Brian Todd is there in Pittsburgh for us. So, Brian, you're there in the room. We will be getting those numbers, we understand, fairly soon, right?
That's right. Well, fairly soon. No strict timetable yet. We think it's going to be in the next couple of minutes. We believe that we're going to hear from David Voy, who's the election division manager for Allegheny County. He's going to step to this podium, we've been told. So we're anticipating that. A lot of anticipation, as you and John are talking about. Allegheny County is so crucial to, whether Joe Biden is going to boost those margins to what he needs here in Pennsylvania. The counters have been here all morning. They've been kind of doing different briefings with the observers. At one point, the observers asked to get a little closer to where the counters were. They were allowed to do that. And so it's been a very transparent process here the entire time we've been here. And it's important to note at this kind of crucial moment here in Allegheny County, Wolf, we have asked repeatedly to people like Rich Fitzgerald, the executive for Allegheny County, and David Voy, who was about to give us this briefing. We have asked repeatedly, have there been any abnormalities? Have there been any complaints from observers? Have there been any glitches, anything at all? We've repeatedly been told no, that everything has been going very smoothly, everything is transparent. I think it's important to point that out at a time like this when so many are hinging on, these few thousand votes that we think we're going to get. The executive for Allegheny County, Rich Fitzgerald, did tell another news outlet a short time ago he expects maybe about 7,000 votes to be revealed here in the next few minutes. So that could be very significant, guys.
Could be extremely significant, and and you are there. You're going to get us those numbers as soon as they come in. Stand by for a moment, Brian. We're going to get back to you. But if we get 7,000 votes right now coming in from Allegheny County, that's a huge number, and presumably mail-in ballots, which are skewed disproportionately for Biden.
Right, and the executive also said this morning some of these ballots they're counting are military ballots. That has been one thing. Again, the campaigns call us, and that's fine. They're working the refs. I remember this 4 years ago. The Clinton campaign was saying, don't call Wisconsin, don't call Michigan. We think there are votes in Milwaukee. We think there are votes in Detroit. We need to listen to them. That's our job. We're reporters. We listen to everybody. And so the campaigns are working the refs, and one of the things the Trump people have been saying, and they have every right to say this over the last couple of days, is don't call these states. Remember, there are military ballots out there, or there are other ballots out there from overseas, and we think we're going to win those. Okay, fair point. What we have seen when they announced the Allegheny results earlier, though, the gentleman said there are some military ballots in there, and Joe Biden still had a lopsided percentage. So again, you're just sort of going through your box. What are the issues the Trump campaign says to watch? What are the issues the Biden campaign says to watch? More importantly, what metrics did we have in place before the election? What are our rules? Are the people we have, and they're fantastic people. You see us on television. I cannot tell you how many people in this building are busting their you-know-whats to help us do this right. And they have their metrics, and they check their boxes. And guess what? Caution is a good watchword. But yes, if you get a batch of votes that size, again, if it reaffirms Joe Biden continues to get 70% of them or high 60% of them, then it tells you your trajectory is solid. There's no interruptions in your line. The president in Arizona, for example, Joe Biden had a big lead. Well, the president makes you pause, right? Hit the pause button because the president chips into it. That's when you stop for caution. The challenge for the president now, as we get so close to decision point in Pennsylvania, is to prove he can slow that trajectory, and we don't see it. And just one more quick thing. I just want to reinforce this, because Brian's in that room. It's not just reporters in that room, and it's not just the government officials, the employees in that room. There are honest Democrats and Republicans in that room. Brian says that nobody's raising complaints. There are very good Republicans from Western Pennsylvania in there. If you're a Democrat, you may disagree with their politics, but they're hardworking people who are volunteering. Those observers are volunteering, and it's very important what Brian just said. There are Democrats and Republicans, hardworking Americans, our neighbors, our friends, our doctors, our farmers, who are in these rooms watching. The president is complaining. He's not in the room. The people in the room, members of his own party, people who voted for him, are not raising their hand and complaining. And that is an incredibly significant point as we go through this process, because those are honest, hardworking people. I don't care what party they're in, they're counting votes.
They're patriotic Americans,
Right.
and we're grateful to them.
Right.
Allegheny County, we're expecting several thousand votes momentarily to be released. Also, let's go back to Philadelphia right now. Kate Baldwin is there. We're expecting a batch of votes to come in from Philadelphia as well, Kate.
That's exactly right, Wolf. We're expecting relatively soon to have the first batch of votes of the day to be counted and uploaded to the system. We're told by officials, we're told by sources that it will be between 2,000 and 3,000 votes. One source telling us it will be before noon, which, as you're looking at, we're in the 11 o'clock hour now on the East Coast. Another source saying by early afternoon. The focus here is on these 20,000 outstanding mail-in ballots that are requiring extra review. As it was put to us, there's also 18,000 provisional ballots that are out there, and we were told to set aside and put out of our mind for the moment those provisional ballots, because right now the focus is on those 20,000 mail-in ballots that are requiring extra review. We know that since 7 o'clock this morning, they have been in there reviewing, observing, and churning this out. We were told by a source there are 10 people processing the ballots, 6 top officials hovering over them. So they are working on it. We are expecting that this update will be coming very soon. It will not be the last update of the day. We're of course, pushing to get more information of what those numbers could look like throughout the day. But they are churning it out as fast as they can, as accurately as they can. As one top official put it, when they know that the world's eyes are on them, Wolf, they said, you move too fast in this process, you look reckless. You move too slow in this process, you look like you're cooking the books. They said they're just getting it right. They're going through each ballot as they would in any election, and this is the process that it takes. But we are expecting an update of 2,000 to 3,000 additional ballots to be counted and uploaded to the system very soon, Wolf.
All right, Kate, as soon as you get a heads up, let us know. We're anxious, really anxious to get the results in Philadelphia, to get results in Allegheny County, John, and Pittsburgh as well. So several thousand, maybe 7,000 in Allegheny County, 2,000 or 3,000 in Philadelphia. Let's say another 10,000 votes come in, and presumably Biden will be doing really well.
And the presumably part is the important part, that if he matches his metrics of what he's been doing, then again, it gets you closer on the trajectory to get there. And you mentioned Philadelphia. Look, he's getting 81% of the vote, right, in the total vote. He's been winning higher percentages when they count these smaller batches of mail-in ballots. But to Kate's point, just think about it at home. You know, if you got 20,000 votes out, if we get 2,000 to 3,000, then you're taking 10% or more off the table. And if it matches what you had in the previous batch, which was a couple thousand, you go back and look, does it match what you had in the previous batch, a couple thousand? Then you're seeing a consistency that makes you more comfortable in making a projection. If you see something that goes in a different direction, it's not an anomaly, it's math. If something comes in, you say, oh, okay, all of a sudden the president is posting more votes, then it gives you pause. So what you're looking for is just, a consistent track. And out of Philadelphia, there has been a very consistent track. And I just want to reinforce again, this is a very competitive election, right? Joe Biden has a possibility of getting over 300 electoral college votes. But when you go through these battleground states and you watch what's happening, so every campaign is based on the last campaign, right? Look what Joe Biden is doing. 81% in Philadelphia. They're still counting votes. 555,833. You go back in time, 584,025. The Clinton campaign lost Pennsylvania 4 years ago. Their biggest issue in the postmortem was not really Philadelphia. There were other cities like Detroit and Milwaukee where they felt like urban turnout, including African Americans, was down, and they were worried about that. This was not one of them. They thought they did a pretty good job here. You always want to turn out more votes. You always do. But the Clinton campaign said, we did it. We met our metric here in Philadelphia. So the challenge for the Biden campaign was to do the same. And they're right on path to do that as they count these remaining votes. They're almost matching it there in percentage as well. So then that's the idea. So, okay, so Trump beat us here last time. What do the Democrats have to do? Number one, match that, because at least match it because it was a strong performance, and then build on it.
All right, hold on one second. Kate Baldwin, I go back to Philadelphia right now. Kate, what are you getting?
Well, we're just learning from a source that they are momentarily going to be posting this new batch, and it will be 3,000 ballots. I'm literally refreshing my phone as we speak. It has not updated to the system yet, but we're told it will be posting momentarily. It will be 3,000 additional ballots added to the result from Philadelphia, Wolf.
And Kate, it's John. We'll step away for 1 second. Let's just walk through this. You mentioned it could be 3,000 ballots, which again could be decisive in the state of Pennsylvania. Walk our viewers through, who might not have been with us through the hours into yesterday or the day before, as to so there's 3,000 ballots of the 20,000 remaining, and these are mostly mail-in ballots or all mail-in ballots?
Exactly. These are all mail-in ballots, John. These are, and I know you know this, but for our viewers to explain, these are mail-in ballots that they kind of keep to the end of the process because they require a second look. They have an issue that needs to be reviewed and addressed. How they talk about them here in Philadelphia, they talk about them as problem child ballots. It's just kind of the way they term it. These are things, I'm just going to continue to refresh, John, as we talk. These are things like there's a missing date. People put their birth date in the place where they're supposed to put the current date. They have missing home addresses. They signed the wrong part of the envelope. These are all issues that have to be addressed to double check to make sure they are accurate before they are counted. These also include, John, even it sounds simple, but it's quite a real thing. The ballot is overly creased, and it has to be dealt with manually because it can't get through the actual system. So this will be a 3,000 batch vote that will go into the system. Where we are right now in terms of the number of ballots cast by mail that have been counted are 339,933. It's always a lot of numbers, John. You are much better at the math than I, so I'm not going to do it. But it'll be a 3,000 additional count for just context for people. That is very similar to the batch that we received yesterday evening. It was a little over 2,000, so it seems that is the increments that they're working in now, John.
I'll do my best when the numbers come in, Kate, but don't underestimate your math skills. Listen, this could be decisive, so I want to get to a point here. It's Philadelphia, where the Trump campaign has had a couple of news conferences in recent days, jumping up and down, screaming about things. They actually won a battle. They went to court in one case. The observers were so far away watching the votes, and they won a court battle so that they could get closer to watch that. The Trump campaign has been stirring up these allegations that in Philadelphia, especially Democratic City, cooking the books. As you've watched this process play out, just like we just had this conversation about Brian in Allegheny, there are Republicans and Democrats, people who voted for President Trump in this room watching, correct? Plus live cameras.
Yes, there. John, you're talking to me, yeah?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I didn't know if there was another voice. There was always too many voices in our heads. Apologies. Yes, there are people in the room. There are poll watchers in the room from both sides, Democratic and Republican. They have been in there the entire time. I was actually told by someone, as the president was saying at a press conference that they weren't letting poll watchers in. Someone texted me and said, "I just left the room. They are in there right now. They have been in there the entire time. We know that they have been." There's also there's been a live stream camera that has been up the entire time. We've spoken to sources and we've asked continuously. There has been they have no reports of glitches or problems. This is the process playing out, and these are hardworking people who have been trying to get it right this entire time. And they're processing. The reason it's taking longer, as you know, John, is because of this influx of mail-in ballots that they have not had before in a general election like this, and also the restrictions that the state was under. The fact that they could not open and prepare the ballots until election day morning.
All right, stand by. We have a key race alert right now. New numbers have just come in Pennsylvania. Biden has increased his lead over Trump right now, 30,908. Biden has 49.6%. Trump has 49.1%. The lead has gone up by a little bit, around 2,000 right now. John King, go ahead.
Let's go, Wolf. I want to walk through these numbers here of what just came in, and I'll write them out for you here. This is from Philadelphia, as we said. The vice president and Democratic nominee, former vice president Democratic nominee, gets 2,431 of these votes. The president of the United States in Philadelphia gets only 356 of these new votes. That is 85%. 85% of these votes. 85%. So let's look at the significance of this. Again, number one, it adds to that statewide lead. It gets Joe Biden above 30, heading to 31,000. That is what we have been looking for, consistency in the trajectory of the count, because you see 3.33 million count, 3.308 million count. Now you have Joe Biden with a 30,000 vote lead. These new votes are coming to us. Just talking to Kate Baldwin. She's right here in the city of Philadelphia. I'll move this down a little bit. Again, what are you looking for as you go through these metrics? Joe Biden gets 85% of this new batch of ballots, just shy of 3,000 votes. He gets 85%. Well, he's been getting 81% when you round up in Philadelphia. So what are we looking for as we go? Is Joe Biden at that decisive moment? Is he continuing to match or exceed the percentages he is getting? That is critical as you start to build your statistical model, as you take more votes off. Now under 100,000 votes left to be counted in Pennsylvania. So 2431, that's 85%, right? I'm going to move this off now and put it into context. So Joe Biden adds to his lead in Pennsylvania by running it up more in Philadelphia. We know we have more ballots coming shortly in Allegheny County as well. The rest of the outstanding ballots, the overwhelming majority of them, right down here, southeast Pennsylvania, in this blue collar, right around this part of the state. Wolf, as you look at these numbers right now, you're building and building and building.
After 4 long, tense days, we've reached a historic moment in this election. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States, winning the White House and denying President Trump a second term. We're able to make this projection because CNN projects Biden wins Pennsylvania, the former vice president, in his third run for the highest office, pulling off a rare defeat of a sitting commander-in-chief. With this victory, Kamala Harris is set to become the first woman and the first person of color to be the vice president. Again, CNN projects Joe Biden will become the 46th president of the United States. And Jake, he is now President-elect Joe Biden.
What a moment in history. We have all been waiting on the edges of our seats since Tuesday. It is the end of a tumultuous presidency, a time of some accomplishments, no question, a time where many Americans throughout the country in shuttered steel towns and in rural America, they felt, for the first time, they felt heard, which is important, but it is also, Wolf, it has also been a time of extreme divisions. Many of the divisions caused and exacerbated by President Trump himself. It's been a time of several significant and utterly avoidable failures, most tragically, of course, the unwillingness to respect facts and science and do everything that could be done to save lives during a pandemic. It has been a time where truth and fact We're treated with disdain. It is a time of cruelty, where official inhumanity, such as child separation, became the official shameful policy of the United States. But now the Trump presidency is coming to an end. To an end. With so many squandered opportunities and ruined potential, but also an era of just plain meanness. It must be said, to paraphrase President Ford, for tens of millions of our fellow Americans, their long national nightmare is over. Dana?
And let's talk about Joe Biden.
Yes.
5 decades in public service, 3 times running for president. He finally got there. And he's the most conventional of politicians, but in this election cycle, his path has been so unconventional. Remember, he beat out the biggest, most diverse field in the Democratic primary. And he is an older white man who did that. He lost Iowa, the oldest. He lost Iowa, he lost New Hampshire, and it was Democratic black voters who saved him and propelled him to this point. And that started in South Carolina. And he made a comeback just this year like we've never seen. And also remember, Joe Biden is defined by his personal loss. His calling card is knowing how to heal himself. And what he ran on and what he says he is going to do is try to heal this nation. Now he's got to turn his attention to that. And can you imagine a more arduous task?
Yeah, and he defeated a president who was not easy to defeat, as we all know. A political force who really shocked the world 4 years ago. But it was, as you said, Dana, a white, old man who did it and who was chosen by an increasingly young, diverse party to do one thing. That's regain the ground that was lost 4 years ago in parts of this country that have been traditionally Democratic. And he did it in a way that was always underestimated by even members of his own party. This is a man who is not known for his discipline, who ran an incredibly conservative, disciplined, understated general election campaign. And it is for that reason that he was elected today as president of the United States. But I just want to say one more thing, Jake, as you said, tens of millions of Americans, for them today, this moment is a huge sigh of relief. They've spent 4 years, a majority of Americans spent 4 years being governed by a president they did not elect. Today, that ends for them. And I think it is a cathartic moment. We have to give credence to that, a cathartic moment for millions and millions of Americans.
And one other thing, just we have to acknowledge, not only did Joe Biden pull off what I think very few people would have predicted a couple of years ago, that he was going to be able to beat this incredible Democratic field, the strongest Democratic field in a long, long time, if not ever. And he was able to pull it off. He was able to do so with decency. He was able to do so on his terms. He ran as Joe Biden. I'm a guy that wants to bring the country together. I'm a guy that wants to govern from the center left. I'm a guy who feels your pain, who cares about you.
And he ran as his authentic self.
And he ran as himself. And I would like to also take a moment to acknowledge that the United States of America just elected its first woman and its first woman of color as vice president. Kamala Harris, the daughter of immigrants, one from India and one from Jamaica. Once again, an amazing sign of what this country can be.
Yeah, in some ways, this country always seems to act on a pendulum. You go from one extreme to another. I think we're seeing the other extreme of the pendulum today. Kamala Harris represents so much for millions of people in this country. And even her path to this moment, I think, is fairly unconventional. She was one of the first major candidates to drop out of the Democratic field, but was someone who I think in the party believed always had so much promise. Even Barack Obama believed she was a major rising star years ago. And one of the roles that she will play for Joe Biden is helping him bridge that gap between the Joe Biden who has been in Washington for decades and decades, the old guard, the 70-something-year-old white man with the younger part of the party that is clamoring to be heard. They feel like they have been, that their futures are on the line, especially after the last 4 years. And I think a lot of them are looking to Kamala Harris to give voice to that.
Yeah, and just to echo what you said earlier in the week, the Democratic Party has been alive on the backs of and through the hard work of Black women for many, many years, and now they finally see representation. And that is a huge thing. I want to just also, I was thinking about this, put some numbers and historical reference on the Kamala Harris moment. 100 years ago this year, women got the right to vote. 55 years ago this year, Black Americans were told that it could be easier for them to vote with the Voting Rights Act. That was after so much bloodshed, so much protest. And now, after all of that time, a Black woman has made history.
And the son of Scranton and the daughter of immigrants are headed to the White House. It is a sign of what can happen in this country. You can become anything you want to be. Anderson?
And it was the state where the Commonwealth where Joe Biden was born. And it is on the same day, 48 years ago, that he was first elected to the Senate, November 7th, 1972. Van, what are your thoughts?
It's well, it's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids character matters. It matters. Telling the truth matters. Being a good person matters. And it's easier for a whole lot of people. If you're Muslim in this country, you don't have to worry if the president doesn't want you here. If you're an immigrant, you don't have to worry if the president's going to be happier to have babies snatched away or send dreamers back for no reason. It's a vindication for a lot of people who have really suffered. You know, the I can't breathe. You know, that wasn't just George Floyd. That was a lot of people that felt that they couldn't breathe. Every day you're waking up and you're getting these tweets and you just don't know. And you're going to the store and people who have been afraid to show their racism are getting nastier and nastier to you. And you're worried about your kids and you're worried about your sister. And can she just go to Walmart and get back into her car without somebody saying something to her? And you spent so much of your life energy just trying to hold it together. And this is a big deal for us just to be able to get some peace and have a chance for a reset. And the character of the country matters. And being a good man matters. You know, I just want my sons to look at this. Look at this. You know, it's easy to do it the cheap way and get away with stuff, but it comes back around. It comes back around, and it's a good day for this country. I'm sorry for the people who lost. For them, it's not a good day, but for a whole lot of people, it's a good day.
Gloria?
You know, and as long as I've been covering politics, we talk about character. And a lot of campaigns, character didn't count. Other things mattered more. And I always ask myself this question, this race, would character matter? Would values matter? Would that go to the top of the list? And COVID became part of that, became part of the character issue, how you handle something that has killed more than 200,000 people in this country. It became a matter of character and values. And you look at Joe Biden, and that is who he is. He's a man of empathy. You can disagree with him on all this. You know, politically, you can say he's a socialist, which of course he isn't. He was very hard for Republicans to pigeonhole because he's had more than 4 decades in public service in which he refused to be pigeonholed. And what's so fascinating about what's going to occur is that during the campaign, or at least early on in the campaign, we always heard Joe Biden talk about himself as a transitional candidate because he is old. Now, as a president, he's going to have to be transformational because so much needs to be done in this country, whether it's about COVID, whether it's about the economy, whether it's about race, whether it's about climate. You can go down the list. So this man who was the youngest man, one of the youngest, I should say, ever elected to the United States Senate, will now be the oldest man ever to take the presidential oath. Think of that. Think of that.
David?
First of all, let me say, watching Wolf make that announcement threw me back to when I was in the war room in 2008 at the campaign headquarters, and I heard him say the words that Barack Obama would be president of the United States, and I was overwhelmed with emotion. I'm sure that's the feeling of people over in Biden's headquarters and many people across the country. And Van just so eloquently and movingly expressed that. Joe Biden, we tend to correct in our elections for the deficiencies of the person in that office. And in this case, those deficiencies went to character, went to decency, went to a lack of empathy. And these are qualities, as Gloria said, that Joe Biden has in abundance. And that made him the right candidate to run against Donald Trump. I think when he said last night that he wanted to bring the country together, that he wanted to be the president of all Americans, that he fundamentally believes that. He grew up that way in politics. But we should also recognize today, and I'm sure Rick will speak to this, that there are a lot of Americans who think that will see this as a gut punch because we are in a very divided country. And for all the tasks that Joe Biden faces now, President-elect Biden, whether it's dealing with the virus or dealing with the economy or myriad other problems, the greatest challenge is going to be to deal with a deeply divided country and try and find a common language and a common set of concerns that we can work on together, even if we disagree on many, many issues. And that, I so fervently hope for the country that he is successful in moving us forward in that way.
Rick, do you think that's possible?
Well, first, let me just congratulate Vice President Biden. He looks like he's going to win this election. I know there's a lot of conservatives, the White House, Republicans, who still think this race isn't over. That they're going to continue this effort to determine whether there was sufficient irregularities in the election to overturn this. So I think that's going to continue. How long it will continue, as David and I talked about yesterday, will depend upon the margins in some of these states. I mean, it's Pennsylvania, it was just called. If Pennsylvania ends up at 50 or 100,000 votes, it's going to be very, very difficult. If let's say Arizona, Nevada, if you're not fighting just in one state, if you're fighting in 3 or 4 states, it's going to be harder to figure out how you can put an effort together to be successful. So from the Republican point of view, we're not convinced it's over yet, and we're going to wait and see how the rest of these states play out. We have, as you can see from the board, a lot of still very, very narrow races. So let me just say, there's not the feeling yet that this is over. Obviously, Van, very moved, and I can understand how people are feeling the way you're feeling right now. I think, as we've talked about before, it's a very divided country, and I think a lot of folks on our side are feeling the fears that you're feeling, that you have been feeling the past 4 years. On the economic side, people are afraid that Joe Biden is going to do what Boris Johnson is doing and Angela Merkel are doing in Europe and shut down the economy. There are a lot of blue-collar people, and again, we've been talking about this, that a lot of blue-collar Americans felt that neither political party really cared about them, and that they were the ones who were losing their jobs. They were the ones who, that whether it was technology or trade or globalism, that they were sort of left behind by both political parties, Republicans for big business and Democrats for tech and the environment and all these other issues, and that the working class people were sort of left behind. And so they're worried about, going back to global agenda and not worrying about what's going on here in America. There are a lot of people of faith who are worried about religious liberty. They're worried about whether there's going to be, speech codes and hate speech and a limit on what they're able to say. So as much as people are concerned, I understand you're feeling relieved. There's a lot of people now are on our side who are feeling concerned.
Van, just before we go, just the challenge ahead for this president is enormous.
Yeah,
It is, and I think that people should take very seriously what the senator just said. The grievances and those working class folks who felt that neither party cared about them weren't wrong. People were sacrificed for an agenda that didn't help a lot of people. And I know poor folks in Appalachia and poor folks in South Central, they got the same problems. And culture wars notwithstanding, there's a moment here. Do your lawsuits, that's your right. But there is a moment here where we can reset. And I think Joe Biden wants us to reset. And I will do everything I can. We got a lot of fear and a lot of pain. We got a lot of promise too. And so do your guys. And if we can sit down at the same table, we can get something done together. Gloria?
I think that the country has just elected a man who is the polar opposite of the man who currently occupies the office. And his norm-shattering presidency, which I think we can all agree it was in one way or another, is going to give way to a presidency that will be all about respecting norms and institutions and making them better and uniting the country, not dividing the country. And I think as Trump becomes the first president, I think in almost 30 years, not to win a second term, it will be hard for him to accept. It is hard for him to accept. But in the end, I hope he is gracious and can muster some graciousness when it comes to Joe Biden and him becoming the next president.
Let's go back to Jake.
Well, it has been quite an ordeal covering the election these last few days, and I know a lot of people out there have been eager for us to count the votes and make calls even before we were ready to do so. I want to make sure that people understand that we were taking